Fujifilm finally released the Fuji GFX 100 RF, their compact-sized, medium-format point-and-shoot camera. It's very comparable to the Leica Q3. And as an owner of the Leica Q3, this camera is very interesting for me, and I was waiting for it for a long time. Now that's out, the only question is, will I buy it, and will I replace my beloved Leica Q3 with this new medium-format camera? First, let's look at the similarities. They are both point-and-shoot cameras with fixed lenses. And while the Q3 has a 28mm lens, the Fujifilm has a 35mm lens. But that 35mm lens on a medium-format sensor is almost like a 28mm on a full-frame sensor. So they are very similar here. Both are designed like a rangefinder. They have the EVF on the left side on top, and they have the flip-out screen, and I mean, they both look fire, right? Now that's it with the similarities. Now let's come to the differences. And the first one, the obvious one, is the sensor. The Fujifilm has this big, humongous 102 megapixel medium format sensor, where the Leica has the 60 megapixel full frame sensor. I mean, the Leica sensor is really nice, but that medium format sensor, that's something different. Next difference is the lens. And yes, I know, I said that it's a similarity and the focal length is a similarity, but they are very different in aperture. While the Fuji lens has a f4 aperture, the Leica lens is a 1.7 Somilux lens. And that means that this lens captures much more light than the Fuji one. The Fuji lens at f4 is an equivalent of, I think, f3.2 or 3.5, somewhere in the 3-point range on full frame. And that means that the Q will be better in low light and also creates more background separation in bokeh, even though it has the full frame sensor versus the medium format sensor in the Fuji. So that's something you have to keep in mind if you think about buying them. I think Fuji did that because they wanted to keep the lens small. I mean, this is not a small lens, but I think if you want to build this lens for medium format, well, you're losing a lot of that compactness, and that's the reason why Fuji didn't have 4 lens, I think. Next difference, the Leica is lighter than the Fujifilm, and that's a big plus in that point-and-shoot camera segment that's often used for traveling and things like that. But, next thing, even though the Fuji is medium format, it's quite a bit cheaper than the Leica Q. So that's the plus on the Fuji side. And there's another thing that I absolutely like, and that's built-in ND. The Fuji has built-in ND filters, which are great, honestly. I love shooting with ND filters, especially when I'm filming. So that's a big plus. Well done, Fuji. And now that we're talking about filming, both cameras are able to shoot video. The Fuji is able to shoot in 4K, while the Leica is able to shoot in 8K. I don't know if you need 8K, but it's definitely a plus because you can crop into your footage, and that's always a good thing if you have a fixed lens here. Now that I've seen all the similarities and all the differences, let's come to a conclusion. I have to say, Fuji have built a really nice camera with the GFX 100R. There's only one thing that's a bit of a bummer, and that's the f4 lens. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against f4 lenses, but if you only have one lens, well, it would be nicer to have something like this, the f1.7 Somilux lens, because if you're traveling, you do not always have great lighting conditions, and in low light, f1.7 definitely beats f4. And also, background separation is something that's pretty hard to achieve with the 28mm lens, and it's definitely easier with an f1.7 lens compared to an f4 lens. So I think Leica has the better concept here, to be honest. And one thing you have to keep in mind as well is the huge sensor that delivers great images, I'm sure about that, but it also produces massive data. And if you're on the go, if you're traveling, well, storage is a problem, or can be a problem with this camera. The Leica, on the other hand, has a very big sensor as well with the 60 megapixel sensor, but they also have the triple resolution technique. And that's a great thing because you can shoot this camera at the full 60 megapixel, but you also can shoot at 38 megapixel or at 18 megapixel, and that saves you so much storage, and that's a great thing for a travel camera like that. But I have to say, one big thing for Fuji is definitely the price. Like I said, they're a few $100 cheaper than the Q series, and maybe for a landscape photographer only, the Fujifilm is maybe the better camera. Of course, they have the medium format sensor that delivers hugely detailed images, and they do not need an f1.7 lens. An f4 lens is more than enough for them. So I think Fuji did a great camera here, and I would love to try it out and to compare it side by side to my Q. But for me, I definitely won't sell my Q3 and buy the Fuji. Like I said, I would love to try it, but I won't trade in this one. I love it, it's great. The Q3 for me is one of the nicest travel cameras. Honestly, I think that the Fuji X100 is maybe the better concept from Fuji than the GFX 100 R4 camera like that. But let me know in the comments, which camera would you buy? Q3, GFX-R or the X100 Let me know it down in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye.